Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Influential Women Podcast. I have Miss Roxy Pignanelli. Did I say that last name
right? That was
right?
absolutely perfect.
Woohoo! It's just like pina colada. So if you forget when you see that G, it's just like pina colada. We should be drinking pina coladas right now. What's wrong with us?
I know. I'm sorry.
Well, welcome, Roxy. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. This is thrilling. I'm honored and grateful to be able to see your incredible company, to meet with you, and to be able to do this podcast. This is great.
Absolutely. Well, and you're doing big things too. So just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a Pueblo girl. Currently, I am the Community and Government Affairs Director for District 70, which means I do a lot of work with legislators. I do a lot of work in the community. But I sort of built up my career when I moved back to Pueblo. I grew up here, and then I left for many years to work in the entertainment industry, to work running theater companies, rock music, did a lot of work as a producer, and then as a general manager running companies, and then eventually went to Yale to teach at the Yale School of Drama, where I taught the management producers to teach them how to run the business.
That is incredible. You taught at Yale.
For the graduate school. But let me tell you, it's easier to teach at Yale than it is to get into Yale. So don't be too impressed with me.
Oh, I'm impressed. You need to give yourself more credit.
Thank you. So I moved back to Pueblo with my young sons at the time. A lot of family things.
Do you have boys?
I have two sons.
Two sons, okay.
Trevor, who is in Los Angeles. He went to school at Loyola Marymount, and he's a creative director for a company called Lineage. He's also a DJ, and he tours all over the world DJing dance music, which is like a perfect sort of, outlet for his other creative work. And my younger son, Barclay, and both of them went to school here. Trevor went to South, Barclay went to Centennial. Barclay has spent many years going through professional musicianship and school, and next month he will get a doctorate in jazz from USC in Los Angeles.
Wow, that's fantastic.
It's great. I created an arts academy at County High 5 years ago because we knew that there are such creative kids, and all the schools are doing their best in the arts, but we needed more, and we needed to focus kids that wanted to go into the business, either to go to college and then the business, or straight into the business. And my philosophy to parents, if your child is gifted and that is in their heart, let them pursue it, because a lot of people do make money. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry in this country. And if we discourage all the artists, there will be none.
And we need artists to make this world go round. That's great advice for parents. Like, let your children be who they're meant to be. And I love that you created a program for those. Because it's so important.
Yeah.
I'm kind of artsy-fartsy, and I wish there was something like that for me.
Well, and it makes a difference because they graduate with a certificate. They graduate with a separate stole. They are in a very elite group. They have to work very hard to achieve that. They have to do a lot of productions, whether they're lighting designers or actors or dancers. And we actually send more kids on scholarships to those programs than a lot of other programs in the city and in the state. And I'll tell you where we really achieve, because a lot of kids go to acting school, but there's a lot of actors. We have so many young women who end up with full scholarships in lighting design, sound design, which is phenomenal, because that's it's a booming industry. But
it really is, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Never. The Vegas market is on fire, and that's a promising future. So, I do encourage, and I encourage my own kids, and so far they're eating, I think.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So when I came back here and I started doing this work with District 70, I also ran the PCEA, which is the association, which is the union, and we combined it together, which was imperative because we wanted to treat every position with the same dignity and integrity. And sometimes unions for people are a dirty word, when in fact I think what we have to look at is how we balance the integrity in people's positions, particularly when it's government money or county money or tax money. But I think it helps a business because then they know that they're not having to negotiate with every individual when it comes to services 4 kids. So that was a great opportunity for me to sit on that side of the table and learn how to dignify every position. Then I got into this position for the district. When COVID hit, I had the ability, because it was, as you know, it was a complete, we were shocked. We were in a war. It was a war. And I recognized that if the schools closed down, where do children go whose parents cannot be at home? First responders. We needed police. We needed firemen. We needed nurses. We needed people in the grocery store. And if their children couldn't be in school and they had to go to work, how were they going to learn? And I was fortunate enough to see the problem quickly, months out, go to the county and the city, secure hundreds of thousands of dollars, worked with the Boys and Girls Club. They were great partners. And by December, January, when the schools were closed down, we had over 300 children in small learning pods of 5 in the school with sub-teachers. And we picked up those kids and we fed them breakfast, lunch, and sent home dinner. And I cannot tell you the people that were so grateful because they wanted to go to work. We were hounding them to go to work. And their children were safe, and we didn't have one COVID case. It was beautiful. And so for me to have a position where I can exercise that and be trusted, because I'm interested in humans and human infrastructure and how we develop them. So, and also I think that's why we do No One Hears Unless You Scream, which is the teen suicide prevention play. When I started the academy 5 years ago at County, I wanted the kids to have a really well-rounded canon of work, musicals, Shakespeare, but I really wanted them to learn social justice work. I wanted them to know how to evaluate the social contract, what's their role, how do they help other people, how do they help themselves. And I found a play about a school shooting because it was, out of control. But I realized, and the district was very, very supportive. The board was incredibly progressive, knowing that we needed to talk about it. But as I did more research, I realized that school shootings are suicides. The assumption for many shooters is they will die by police death, which is horrific. So I thought, why don't we just talk about suicide, which is the number 1 killer of children 10 to 14 in this country.
Wow.
And the state of Colorado sits very high in that regard. And then from 14 to 18, it's the number 3 killer. So we found this piece, which was written by kids, for kids, performed for kids. And as we've been doing it, we realize, parents, adults, everybody, that it's a series of vignettes. It has a thread, a very common story thread. But the vignettes deal with bulimia, date rape, sexual gender identity, bullying, the whole gambit, drug addiction, and it's a lot of safe messaging. It is not gratuitous or obscene in its presentation, and there's 25 kids in it, and it's breathtaking. And at the end of every production, there are a number of psychologists from the schools, from Health Solutions who sponsor, from Spark the Change. So anyone in the room who's been triggered by anything in the piece gets immediate counseling.
Wow.
It's really, and so now it's touring.
About that. That is awesome.
Well, we've done it in our schools. We've done it for the leadership of 60, 70. We did it at the university in hopes that maybe they'll be able to create something very similar with that platform for addiction in the university arena. We will be taking it to Walsenburg. We're negotiating with Crested Butte, and different communities struggle with this problem, and it's very difficult to talk about because you have this apprehension. If we talk about it, are we going to encourage it? Are we going to remind people? I mean, everything, because we don't know. Right. And there is no answer. In this play, it's very clear that it's sort of set in this kind of trial atmosphere.
When I like how you said it was safe messaging. And that's, at the end of the day, what's most important. If you can have a safe message with teens about the biggest problems that go through in their age. Like, I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a great piece. So look out for it. And we call it Scream, but it's No One Hears Unless You Scream. And we've had great coverage, but when things are live, it's difficult because you're not. And we prefer to continue it live only because the experience is so critical, that marriage with artists and audiences, but also when people can get immediate help. So,
It's wonderful.
Yeah,
I
no,
love
it's I have a general concern that, and particularly as we came out of COVID, we were put into this place where we had to reevaluate who we are, how we see things. And for some of us, it gave us a charge to rise up, to take whatever bricks were left and build. And for others, it became sitting in the rubble. And we have to take people along with us.
Absolutely.
We have to move, and we have to move forward. And children are very resilient, but when they're not, we have to encourage them because they're they're an energy that people aren't, I think, always cognizant of. And so, yeah, that's really important to me. And also the fact that the mental health issue, we talk about mental health, but what do we do about mental health? And, we don't have to feel ashamed that we struggle with mental health issues.
No. And you have people there to help with it. So that's just...
It's great. It's great. So, but the district has allowed me to do a number of these projects. And then also I have a company with Kennedy Pugh, who I call my work husband, my muse, who is a beautiful song and dance man. And I think a lot of people know him in the community. And he sings at St. Joe's. We have a company called Colorado Arts and Artists Associates, and we do a lot of different projects and producing, and so that keeps me in my creative side when I'm having to work with legislators to write bills that'll recognize the discrepancy in the funding for District 70. So
you have a good balance of
I do
a little bit of what you're good with.
Yeah.
What is your why?
Why do I do it?
Yeah, what's your why in life? Why do you do what you do?
Because I think that I was extraordinarily gifted with, I have 4 brothers. I have no mother, no sisters, no daughters. I had to toughen up. I was able to see the world from a man's perspective. I have 2 sons. And I had a mother who was a titan. She was 5 feet tall, and she should have been 10 feet tall. And
she was a titan. I love that. I don't think I've ever heard anybody describe their mom like a titan.
Yeah, she just really encouraged me to be strong and to be brave and courageous, and don't ever take credit for anybody's work, but certainly don't let anybody take credit for yours. And I worry, my bravura may come off as arrogance, but it's not. I think it's okay for women to be confident, to see it in other women. Mm-hmm. And so I have that platform, and I know that I know how to solve a problem. I see problems very quickly, which is a blessing and a curse.
Right.
I know how to solve them. I'm not afraid to ask for money to solve them and encourage people, particularly if it's helping in the social contract. And so I think I do it because I know how and because I'm good at it, and I should. And we should do what we do that we know we're good at, and not be afraid that there's a concern that we're, stepping over the top. I mean,
you have to be proud of what you're good at and run with it, right? You gotta find that piece and be proud of it and roll.
Exactly, and I think women are asking for a place at the table. Shirley Chisholm, if you don't have one, bring a folded chair.
Yep.
And
I'm all about that, and I could see you being that kind of girl. Like, nope, yep. I wasn't invited to this table, but I'm going to make room for me at this table because I have some added value.
I'll be a good partner, and I think it's okay for us, but I think we have to really evaluate our strengths and always be willing to learn.
Absolutely.
I mean, you don't know what you don't know. Don't make it up. Ask. And so, and I've been a teacher as well in my life, so I really think that it's critical, and I think it's critical that we're at a time now, we're on this precipice of women being partners. And that doesn't mean we should have the spot just because we're women, but you can see that the playing field hasn't been as level as it should be. And what do we teach our daughters and our sisters and girls? We have to let them know, come and be a collaborator, and don't be afraid, and listen.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice I've ever received was from a Tai Chi master in Toronto, who told me to be honest and kind, and never be so honest that you're not kind, and never be so kind that you can't be honest.
Wow. I have never heard. Can you say that one more time?
Yeah.
I loved that.
So never be so kind that you can't be honest. So you're not really helping anybody with, you're just sort of like placating, and never be so honest that you can't be kind.
That is powerful.
Yeah, and it's something I have to learn. I mean, I love being kind, and my mother was kind, and my father was kind, and my brothers. I mean, we learned that, and it was a gift. Sometimes I'm too honest because I get too excited about what I think and my opinion, and I need every day still in my life to just remember that, it's more important to ensure their emotional well-being than how right you think you are, Roxy. And I'm a bossy pants.
Are you?
Oh, God.
So am I. I think we're a lot alike.
Yeah.
More than you probably know.
Yeah. No, I can.
But I love it.
I just went on a tour with Jenny in this beautiful building, and it was incredible. And watching you just delineate, I like that. I don't need all the peripheral frills. I like to cut to the chase, because when you're a producer, and I've been a producer all my life, time is precious.
Absolutely.
The curtain goes up, you're on the run. So yeah, that was the best advice I ever got.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And it sounds like you've had a lot of wins. I mean, from being a professor at Yale to, being able to create your own project, seeing a need and going with it. What's been some of your roadblocks in life? Like, what's been some challenges that you've overcome?
Myself. Fear. I grew up in a beautiful household with an extraordinary family, but I lived in a food desert for a while. I went through some struggles, watching my mother be a cleaning lady and not really being able to pursue the education. And so as I went through life, graduated high school here, I was the first student body president of a public high school west of the Mississippi, because I was just so tenacious about changing some rules, like getting rid of the dress code. We want to wear pants. I mean, I wasn't changing the world, but I was changing my school.
What high school?
South High.
Okay, you're Colt.
And oh yeah.
That's why you're all in black.
That's
black
right.
and white. She still represents.
Yeah, and before that, go Pitts Ponies. And I went to school at CSU Fort Collins and did some work in Boulder. But, I married a man from Canada, and we lived there and had these two beautiful kids. But all my life until recently, actually, admittedly, I've always had this background fear of not being able to provide for me and for them, because when you come out of that station, no matter how successful you are, and I think it's what drives people, but it also torments you. I've got to make sure I can keep it going. I can't let one day down. I'll look like a failure. And so those roadblocks were me. I think other roadblocks were many times I would find myself as the only woman in the room, and you fight to maintain identity so that you don't succumb to a certain submissiveness or too much corporate culture, if you will, that you have your identity as your culture. Because we as women did not define corporate culture. It's not a dirty word, but it has a certain patriarchy to it. And, and certainly I don't feel that all women have had to get to the top by certain means, but I think more and more, we're learning our ability to just say, this is my vocabulary, this is my intention, and that's all that's necessary as long as I'm a good partner. So, that hasn't been as much of an obstacle for me, I think. And I think the biggest thing too is just being to always know that it's okay to compete and not look too aggressive.
And do you think other women are our own worst enemy? Because you kind of said that, like yourself was a roadblock because, what you're really good at was something that, made you a little bit fearful too. Do you think other women do that too?
I think that it's not deliberate, and I'm not.
It's not deliberate, yeah.
And I'm only defining that not to backpedal, but I sort of grew up in the professional theater world, which is grueling, and you're fighting to get a show up, you're fighting to make payroll, you're fighting to convince people how important art and experience is in their life. So there wasn't time for that level of competition. As an actor, you compete with everybody. But I think what happens is when women live in that sense of fear and they're not sure if they can use the same vocabulary, then there becomes resistance. Mm-hmm. And resistance reads just as strong as antagonistic. And that, we are a great force in that. I believe that, and don't get me wrong, I have 4 brothers and 2 sons, and I understand them. But I think that women by nature are empaths. They feel immediately when somebody else is suffering or struggling, and don't work against it. Don't work against it.
Right.
It only helps you when you are able to solve that problem. And when you see that another woman has gotten a promotion or gotten more pay or succeeded in a project, good on you.
Absolutely. Give them a round of applause.
Dig, because you know how far they've had to come to get it. I will give you, and I'm just going to say it, I'm running for county commissioner, and I had to get through the assembly. And the assembly
Which I'm so excited, by the way. I wish you all the best. She is running for county commissioner.
I am running District 3.
What made you want to do that?
Well, when I came back to Pueblo, I created an organization called the Coalition for Women in Government with Margaret Mora and Rita Martinez and a number of other women, because we recognized that a lot of women weren't running. And we just wanted to create, and Debbie Dusick, an ad hoc coalition that would give them support, see what they needed, not necessarily in any party, completely bipartisan, just the idea that there were other women out there saying, you go, girl. Mm-hmm. And it did help, and then it waned, and then life got in the way, and then I recognized it again. In the Colorado legislature, there are 42% women in legislature in Colorado against a 24% national average. So I thought, well, this is good. This is happening here. Why are we woefully behind? Well, then all those fabulous girls got in on city council.
Wow.
And I thought, okay, it's picking up. There were a number of other people I felt should run for this seat, because Chris Wiseman isn't going to run, and he's fantastic, but he's chosen.
A good man.
Oh yeah, he's chosen a different life, and I've worked with him a lot on all these projects that I've done. Fair Care for the learning shelters and the play and Boys and Girls Clubs, all kinds of. And I thought, we have a similar sensibility, and I think the commissioners have that nice balance between them in terms of infrastructure, human structure. We need somebody to fill that seat. And I went, all right, I'll do it. And I got to encourage. I can't tell women and girls run for office, and then I go, yeah, not me.
So what would be your number one thing that you would like to bring to that seat?
I would like to see Pueblo become a safer, stronger Pueblo. And I will begin with that human infrastructure. The social services, simple thing. I think that our social workers who are worked to death, and it's very difficult the way the structure is, that with education still being the single largest employer in Pueblo, when you combine all 4 elements, education, let's put those social workers in the schools. Let's fortify children. Let's fortify the needs of people. Let's do human restoration. I love the idea that we are going to build a new jail because we need it and we need dignity. I really want that road over to Pueblo West, Joe Martinez.
Hey, me too.
Big time. And I think as we are developing that physical capital infrastructure, we have to do the same with people. Otherwise, all of that will sit like a gold filling in a mouth of decay. People have to build up.
Absolutely.
And so, I have run multi-million-dollar businesses. I get budgets. I get where we have to go with all policy. I've been a lobbyist for both the union and for the district. In terms of advocacy is really a better term. But I think for me, where I land, I can see the problem and I know how to fix it.
Like you're a doer.
I'm a total doer, and people trust me because when you've spent this many years working with children throughout the entire county, and Pueblo West is Pueblo, and Rye is Pueblo, and the Mesa is Pueblo. All of this that makes up this extraordinary family of people here, when they know that you can be trusted with their children and to build things and to protect them, I think it's a pretty good pitch.
Absolutely. You're going to go far, and I'm excited to watch you. And so is it this upcoming November is the election, or?
I have a primary. I have to get on the ballot in June, and then after that it'll be in November. And, again, I think I honor everybody who runs. It's daunting. You have to raise money, and you have to get out there, and I'm good at raising money, but it's always very nervous-making for yourself. But, you've got to do a lot of campaigning and convince people why you're the choice. But I have to say that particularly at this time, and to put a woman back into the commissioner's seat, it's been some time, I feel like I can be a trusted choice. I give my word that I can be trusted.
I love it. And we have a lot of women running right now. Like, we have an event here at Wake Up for just women and running for all these positions coming up, which is so exciting to see women stepping up to the plate and I deserve this seat. I've put my time in. I have the experience. I have the ability. They're just going for it.
It was a phenomenon. The assembly, at least from the Democratic Assembly, there were 6 women that were running to get on the ballot, and 7 women, and 6 of them got on the ballot. And, very brave, and women typically come to the table and say, these are all the things I've done. It's not a lot of philosophy. It's, it's very earnest resume and tenure in things that they've been doing with their hands and their heart and their boots on the ground. And so, it was fantastic. And it'll be interesting to see. Some of it's a little, some of it's going to be a little tumultuous, but it's democracy.
Tumultuous? Wait, go back. I've never heard that word.
Tumultuous, rough and tumble kind of,
Oh, I love learning something new. Okay.
Well, a little wordy. I'm a little wordy, but I love words and I love reading. And I think as a teacher, we have to walk that talk for kids because there's a lot of power in vocabulary and knowledge. Yeah.
What is your favorite book?
My very favorite book, I would have to say, that's really.
Or what's the one book that you always recommend to somebody? Like one of your all-time favorites?
Oh, wow. I would say that, I love work by Dorothy Parker because she's humorous and she's brilliant and she was so independent. I love War and Peace. I love anything by Charles Dickens. I have been reading currently a lot of young and new novelists that speak a lot about, it's almost like it's a fantasy, and I can't, the name I can't recall, of how women are progressing. And then I read a lot of plays, and I love reading Tennessee Williams, who is a great American playwright, Dale Orlander Smith, who's an African-American female playwright, Pearl Cleage. But Tennessee Williams, I love. This is a good quote for you. Tennessee Williams always said, "Nothing human disgusts me that is not cruel or unkind." And, I love that as a teacher, because children come in front of you in all shapes and sizes and issues and poverty and despair and whatever, and none of it is disgusting. None of it.
I know.
And we just have to learn, that we are precious creatures. So that's a great playwright to read always. The Human Condition.
I love it. And it's so true. I used to be a teacher. And, you get children coming in from all different walks of life. And the best part is you could reach them all and connect with them on different levels and truly make a difference. Like, teachers are so inspiring and powerful. How long have you been a teacher for?
Well, I've always been a teaching artist all my life in the industry. And then as I said, I taught at Yale. And I've been with the district for 19 years. I taught in the classroom a full solid 7, and then I went back and 5 more when I was running the academy. I also taught, but I've been the speech and debate coach and the drama coach, and I do this play. I never really let myself go for too many weeks without being in rehearsal with kids or coaching kids or teaching a class, because
we need your kids to come to wake up. We have a place for them. We need to somehow work on a connection to help your kiddos.
Yeah, no, truly, because they are unbelievably gifted. One of our kids just won the Denver Center Young Playwrights Award in the state.
Wow.
It's a big deal, because there's kids from all over the state. There's some incredible programs. We have kids that were in the top tier, going to nationals for speech and debate. These kids in Pueblo, as people say, it's something. And then when we go to competition, they go, "What's in the water down there in Pueblo?" These kids are off the charts. They're unbelievably brave. Yeah,
they
it's great.
We do. We have an amazing kiddos, and it's fun to see them just rise to the occasion and just do what they're doing. That like finding out who they are and doing it well. I love watching kids.
Yeah,
it's so fun to.
Yeah, and you do a lot with kids too.
Yeah, I do. I try.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got 3 of my own, but I am involved in CASA, and I still am in touch with all my old students and watching them, grow. It's just fun.
Yeah, nothing's more rewarding than to see them when they text you or they put on Facebook, what they're doing and how they're doing. And I think for me also in our community, we sometimes, by virtue of being Pueblo,